Hey everybody, we're going to try this again. We're going to do the September 3rd daily Bible reading. I have disconnected from my house Wi-Fi, which is supposed to be all that and more. And I'm now on my hotspot that is through cellular service. We'll see how this goes. Please forgive me for the mess up. So we'll be doing the September 3rd. We're going to start in the Song of Solomon, chapter 5, verse 1. The Beloved. I have come to my garden, my sister, my spouse. I have gathered my myrrh with my spice. I have eaten my honeycomb with my honey. I have drunk my wine with my milk. To his friends, he says, Eat, O friends, drink. Yes, drink deeply, O beloved ones. The Shulamite. I sleep, but my heart is awake. It is the voice of my beloved. He knocks, saying, Open for me, my sister, my love, my dove, my perfect one, for my head is covered with dew, my locks with the drops of the night. I have, while the guest feasted, the couple consummated their marriage, and Solomon announced the blessing. Now, this was cultural in that time for this to go on. He says, Eat, O friends. Given the intimate and private nature of sexual union, it seems difficult to understand anyone but God speaking these words. This is the divine affirmation of sexual love between husband and wife as holy and beautiful. I have taken off my robe. How can I put it on again? I have washed my feet. How can I defile them? My beloved put his hand by the latch of the door, and my heart yearned for him. I arose to open for my beloved, and my hands dripped with myrrh, my fingers with liquid myrrh on the handles of the lock. I opened for my beloved, but my beloved had turned away and was gone. My heart leaped up when he spoke. I sought him, but I could not find him. I called him, but he gave me no answer. The watchmen who went about the city found me. They struck me. They wounded me. The keepers of the walls took my veil away from me. I charge you, O daughters of Jerusalem, if you find my beloved, that you tell him I am lovesick. The daughters of Jerusalem. What is your beloved? More than another beloved, O fairest among women? What is your beloved? More than another beloved, that you so charge us? The Shulamite. My beloved is white and ruddy, chief among 10,000. His head is like the finest gold. His locks are wavy and black as a raven. His eyes are like doves by the rivers of water, washed with milk and fitly set. His cheeks are like a bed of spices, banks of scented herbs. His lips are lilies dripping liquid myrrh. His hands are rods of gold set with beryl. His body is carved ivory inlaid with sapphires. His legs are pillars of marble set on bases of fine gold. His countenance is like Lebanon, excellent as the cedars. His mouth is most sweet. Yes, he is altogether lovely. This is my beloved, and this is my friend, O daughters of Jerusalem. The daughters of Jerusalem, where has your beloved gone, O fairest among women? Where has your beloved turned aside, that we may seek him with you? The Shulamite, my beloved has gone to his garden, to the beds of spices, to feed his flock in the gardens, and to gather lilies. I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine. He feeds his flock among the lilies. The beloved, O my love, you are as beautiful as Tirzah, lovely as Jerusalem, awesome as an army with banners. Turn your eyes away from me, for they have overcome me. Your hair is like a flock of goats going down from Gilead. Your teeth are like a flock of sheep, which have come up from the washing. Everyone bears twins, and none is barren among them. Like a piece of pomegranate are your temples behind your veil. There are 60 queens and 80 concubines and virgins without number. My dove, my perfect one, is the only one of her mother, the favorite of the one who bore her. The daughters saw her and called her blessed, the queens and the concubines, and they praised her. Who is she who looks forth as the morning, fair as the moon, clear as the sun, awesome as an army with banners? The Shulamite. I went down to the garden of nuts to see the verdure of the valley, to see whether the vine had budded and the pomegranates had bloomed, Before I was even aware, my soul had made me as the chariots of my noble people. The beloved and his friends. Return, return, O Shulamite. Return, return, that we may look upon you. The Shulamite. What would you see in the Shulamite? As it were, the dance of the two camps. Psalm 104, verses 24 through 30. O Lord, how manifold are your works. In wisdom you have made them all. The earth is full of your possessions, this great and wide sea in which are innumerable teeming things, living things both small and great. There the ships sail about. There is that Leviathan, which you have made to play there. These all wait for you, that you may give them their food in due season. What you give them they gather in. You open your hand, they are filled with good. You hide your face, they are troubled. You take away their breath, they die and return to their dust. You send forth your spirit, they are created, and you renew the face of the earth. Proverbs 24, verses 19 and 20. Do not fret because of evildoers, nor be envious of the wicked, for there will be no prospect for the evil man. The lamp of the wicked will be put out. 1 Corinthians 13, 1 through 13. Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I have become sounding brass or a clanging cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith, so that I could remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned, but have not love, it profits me nothing. Love suffers long and is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not parade itself, is not puffed up, does not behave rudely, does not seek its own, is not provoked, thinks no evil, does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth, bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. The tongues of men. That this gift was actual languages is established in Acts 2, 4 through 12, affirmed in this text by Paul's calling it of men, clearly a reference to human language. This was the gift which the Corinthians prized so highly, abused so greatly, and counterfeited so disastrously. God gave the ability to speak in a language not known to the speaker as a sign with limited function. Tongues of angels. The apostle was writing in general hypothetical terms. There is no biblical teaching of any special angelic language that people could learn to speak. Love. Self-giving love that is more concerned with giving than receiving. Without love, no matter how linguistically gifted one is to speak his own language, other languages, or even hypothetically the speech of angels, his speech is noise only. In New Testament times, rites honoring the pagan deities Cybele, Bacchus, and Dionysius included ecstatic noises accompanied by gongs, cymbals, and trumpets. Unless the speech of the Corinthians was done in love, it was no better than the gibberish of pagan ritual. Love never fails, but whether there are prophecies, they will fail. Whether there are tongues, they will cease. Whether there is knowledge, it will vanish away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when that which is perfect has come, then that which is in part will be done away. In the previous comments, the focus is on the emptiness produced when love is absent from ministry. In these verses, the fullness of love is described in each case by what love does. Love is action, not abstraction. Positively, love is patient with people and gracious to them with generosity. Negatively, love never envies or brags or is arrogant, since that is the opposite of selfless service to others. It's never rude or overbearing. Love never wants its own way, is not irritated or angered in personal offense, and finds no pleasure in someone else's sin, even the sin of an enemy. On the positive side again, love is devoted to truth in everything. With regard to all things within God's righteous and gracious will, love protects, believes, hopes, and endures what others reject. Verse 11, when I was a child, I spoke as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then I shall know just as I also am known. And now abide faith, hope, love, these three, but the greatest of these is love. So chapter 13, verses 1 through 13, spiritual gifts were present in Corinth. Right doctrine was even in place, but love was absent. This led to the quarrels and exhibitions of selfishness and pride that plagued the church, notably in the area of spiritual gifts. Instead of selfishly and jealously desiring showy gifts, which they don't have, believers should pursue the greatest thing of all, love for one another. This chapter is considered by many the greatest literary passage ever penned by Paul. It is central to his earnestly dealing with spiritual gifts in chapters 12 through 14. Because after discussing the endowment of gifts in chapter 12 and before presenting the function of gifts in chapter 14, he addresses the attitude necessary in all ministry in the church in chapter 13. So day 3, what about interpretations of Song of Solomon that allegorize it to mean God's love for Israel or Christ's love for the church? The song, this is John MacArthur's opinion. A commentary is an opinion. Generally, biblical commentary is written by people who study and dive in and dig deep into Scripture. But remember that it's men. I do like the allegorization of thinking of the Song of Solomon as God's love for Israel and Christ's love for the church. Is it necessarily a true allegory? I don't know. We won't know until we get to heaven. So here's John's opinion. The song has suffered strained interpretations over the centuries by those who use the allegorical method of interpretation, claiming that this song has no actual historical basis, but rather that it depicts God's love for Israel and or Christ's love for the church. The misleading idea that hymnology, that Christ is the rose of Sharon and the lily of the valleys, result from this method. The typological variation admits the historical reality, but concludes that it ultimately pictures Christ's bridegroom love for his bride, the church. A more satisfying way to approach Solomon's song is to take it at face value and interpret it in the normal historical sense, and I'm okay with that. Understanding the frequent use of poetic imagery to depict reality. To do so understands that Solomon recounts phases of his relationship with the Shulamite. 1, his own days of courtship. 2, the early days of his first marriage, followed by 3, the maturing of this royal couple through the good and bad days of life. The Song of Solomon expands on the ancient marriage instructions of Genesis 2, verse 24, thus providing spiritual music for a lifetime of marital harmony. It is given by God to demonstrate his intention for the romance and loveliness of marriage, the most precious of human relations, and the grace of life. I firmly believe that God instituted the covenant of marriage to be also symbolic of his love. And we have so, in this fallen world, turned that so over. So I can take all of those things, the Song of Solomon, from a husband and a wife viewpoint. I'm great with that. But I'm also good with looking at it as God's love for Israel and Christ's love for the church. I'm also okay with that. I love the Song of Solomon, and I love the love story that is in it, whether it is the love story of a husband and wife or the love story of God to his people. So that concludes the September 3rd